have calmed down a little bit. In my main account, KvK, we're just burning forts. It's going to take a long time, and it is what it is. So today we're going to review the upcoming KvK on my restart account. And this is a little bit of a head scratcher with regard to the matchmaking. So let's talk about what you've got in front of you here. This is the map, and we're doing Heroic Anthem. I'm going to be honest with you. On a scale of 1 to 10, my interest level in Heroic Anthem compared to other KvK formats is pretty darn low. The other formats I feel are just more exciting these days, and maybe I've just done Heroic Anthem enough times that I'm like, I'm ready to see other things. But we're in a Heroic Anthem. This is Season of Conquest KvKs, of course, which means Fire Camp is typically the strongest. Up in Fire Camp is 2394, and Kingdom 3004. They've got 35 billion power and 941 billion kill points. Now, they are allied with Water Camp, and the Water Camp is one kingdom only, 3060, 21 billion power and 177 billion kill points. Let me tell you, my friends, as we review this map, one of these things is not like the others, and it's, again, like a head scratcher on this matchmaking, okay? Now, we go to the upper right, and we're allied with 1603 and 2064. Now, in part, we're allied with this group because we had fought against them in the past, so I think there were some relationships there. And like, yeah, generally people prioritize people they know and their friends, and that ally relationship was established very quickly. That's 34.4 billion power and just over 1 trillion kill points. And then there's our war camp at 36.7 billion power. So we are the highest by power, but we have much less KP. Okay, 687 billion kill points. In our war camp is also 3151. I'm looking forward to working with you guys. Cheers, friends. This should be an interesting KvK, maybe. So what's going on here? I mean, like, obviously the two camps up top have a lot of KP to work with, which means they do a lot of field fighting. But I don't know what's going on with the presence of Water Camp in this KvK. I mean, just looking at this data, it's like, wait, like, why? I've been in this situation before where there is a third or a fourth war camp that is just like not at the same power level, at least as far as we can tell, as everybody else. So my only guess as to why 3060 would be thrown into this map is that they must be a freaking huge kingdom. So we're going to go get a look at that kingdom in just a minute. But obviously, this is a left versus right KvK situation. And in Heroic Anthem, what that typically means is that, okay, I mean, let me draw on this map. I would assume that we're going to win this zone over here. This zone over here is going to be free to us. And I don't know who wins in the top. Genuinely, I have no clue. It could be us. All right. It could also be the other kingdoms, assuming they go for this zone 5 fight, which I assume they will. And of course, they get this zone for free. All right. From here, folks advance into their next zones, which are free. Now, the one thing I can appreciate about a Heroic Anthem is that if you can avoid fighting until the sort of end, you can really save a lot on your resource cost. You know, I appreciate that, okay? But I recognize that's not the most important thing. These zones are free, right? And then you have the past 7s that open. And with a proper defense, it is borderline impossible to invade the zones that are here. It really is. The zone 6, if done correctly, is impossible to invade, and then you've got a Kingsland fight. All right. Now, the reality is that kingdoms are more or less experienced at actually defending these zones, and some kingdoms just throw in the towel. That's happened a number of times, even in recent history. All right. So this could shape up to be a pretty even-ish fight going into Kingsland, but there will be a huge disadvantage from the standpoint of overall power and kill points. There'll be a huge disadvantage from the standpoint of having access to zones, potentially, depending on who kind of wins the north fight, all right, for that northern zone 5. So let's just jump in game and get a look at 3060 and see what's going on. How are they on our KvK? And how do they not have someone else in their war camp to kind of even things up? So I will point out that in the Eve of the Crusade, we're in stage 2, and 3060 has almost double the score of the next highest kingdom, and that is the Wind Camp, then the Earth Camp. Well, it's a kingdom from those camps, actually. 3151, and then 2064. And then it's 2 of the Fire Camp kingdoms, but those scores are all really low. So we'll see who ultimately does some training here. I don't think this is a very good indicator of who is going to win or lose KvK, but this to me is perhaps an indication that this is a kingdom that has a lot of players, right? So if we zoom all the way out, is it true? Is 3060 a kingdom filled with players? Let's get a look. Here they are. Okay, 3060. Not open for migration anymore, of course, because they're matched for KvK, but let's get a peek at what we've got here. All right, so we zoom all the way out. We go to the center, and I appreciate the labeling because this labeling makes it so easy for me to figure out the main alliance and the second alliance. So 60-1 has got to be the main. They're at 10.5 billion power. So the power is on the low end of fine. All right. If we look at the alliance members here, officers are in like the 50 to 70 mil range. Presumably they've got some high power players in this kingdom. Or is everybody just that like 50 to 70 mil range? I mean, it feels like it's a young kingdom, right? Like this, that's got to be a representation of count power and armaments and all those things. Then you've got an 8.5 billion power additional alliance. And they've labeled here, there's another main alliance, 60-3. All right, let's get a look. 60-3. And they are almost 8 billion power, all right? So you've got a lot of power here. If these are really all active players in these alliances, couldn't tell you, maybe there are farms, right? We could try to look at the third alliance here and just scroll down in the list. But if these are all main accounts, you're looking at 450 players, which like, okay, I think this is what the game looks at. And they say, oh, these guys should be in their own war camp, right? Because when we go back to my kingdom, I don't even know where we're at these days. We shifted to being a one alliance kingdom, which I think is smart and is very much caught on to the trend of like, you can't actually have multiple alliances in a kingdom anymore. So if we get a look at our alliance power, we have one 11.2 billion power alliance. So the thing is that unless 3060 has a bunch of spenders to offset the fact that their accounts are younger, they are going to have a hard time in the field. I mean, I think those kill point numbers probably tell the entirety of the story. And if we look at our kill points, ours are not amazing. 450 billion these days is honestly, I would argue, a relatively low number. If you look at my main account of kingdom, we're at like 1 trillion kill points plus. And even that, I would argue, for Imperium kingdoms is on the lower side. So where am I going with this? I hope that we'll get some good fighting in this KvK. And I think for that to happen, I would imagine the folks that are in water camp that are looking at the data might psych themselves out. And that's understandable. Like, I think they probably should have had a camp made, TBH. And so then that begs the question, well, what about a free-for-all? And I think you know my thinking on free-for-all. I think it is an absolute disaster always. Every single time, it is the worst possible choice. So TLDR, I think there really are 2 types of KvKs. The ones where you set up for the big fights, and then the ones where you're taking the big fights. And like, I don't know what kind of KvK this is going to be, but it might be a setup KvK. A lot depends on what water camp can do, and a lot depends on who wins the fight in the north between our allies and fire camp. We'll see. I am looking forward to entering KvK, however, so subscribe to the channel. We'll stream that, of course, blast through the tech. And if you want to see the last couple days of things going on in my main account KvK, although things are chill now, they've been some fun live streams. Cards in the end screen in just a second.